Welcome on into Morning Kickaround. This is a World Cup story, so I'll remind you that World Cup coverage here on Morning Kickaround is brought to you by Oakland County Football Club. They're celebrating 10 years of summer soccer in Southeast Michigan this year. Tickets now available, so visit Oakland County FC online for those schedule, player information, and much more. So plenty of updates on World Cup planning with just about, a few months to go. There is a deadline coming up in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Foxborough has a calculated cost of $7.8 million to cover public safety expenses for the tournament. But funds, they say, are not going to come from the small town in Massachusetts. There's a select board there, I think, of 4 folks, and they've set a deadline of March 17th for a license to be awarded. And then if there's no one steps up to fill that $7.8 million cost, they're not going to issue a license.
Yeah, I think it's easy to dismiss this as, this is just red tape. They'll figure it out. The Foxborough will get their money in the end and everything will be hunky-dory. And maybe that is true. And maybe this is just, again, people that are consistently kicking the can down the road to try to find a way to get out of a big bill. But the select board of Foxborough, by the way, a town of 18,000 people, 18,000 people live in the city of Foxborough, Massachusetts. That means that the capacity of Gillette Stadium is something like 3+ times the size of the town where the stadium sits. And because it's their town, they have every right to say, well, you can do this and you can do that, but you can't do this other thing. And again, it comes down here in this situation, and we're relying on a very good story by Adam Crafton at The Athletic here this morning. This comes down to the town of Foxborough, 18,000 people, not being willing, because it would be something like, 10% of their budget, they said?
Yeah.
To pay $7.8 million to cover police and public safety expenses during the tournament. And here's the thing. Again, we already know, everybody who pays any attention at all to the World Cup and how it works, know that FIFA parachutes in, asks you to pay all the bills, takes the money, and dips out. And they're saying they're going to make $11 billion off the World Cup. But what do they say? Like, what do you get in return? Well, this is what Johnny Infantino says. Well, we're going to get $11 billion for the World Cup coming to the United States, I guess Canada and Mexico too, but you are going to get $30 billion of economic activity.
Love economic activity.
There's no way to actually count that up. There's no guarantee. Like, it's not realized money. It's not a line item that says you're going to get paid $30 billion. This is just a promise. And words are cheap. And very rarely, and go ask look, I love sports. I love soccer. I want soccer stadiums to be built because it services me as a soccer fan to have nice stadiums for soccer to be played in this country. But I'm not stupid. I know that all that economic activity talk is mostly bluster to justify spending public money on things that are ultimately private enterprises, right? You don't just go, well, we want a soccer stadium, so let's just take a bunch of public money and put it into the soccer stadium. Oh, there's going to be economic, maybe match days. And again, FIFA has an agreement that basically says you have to foot the bill on all these things. And some of this stuff is wild. Like, it says public safety, so that's police, that's security around the stadium, which, by the way, Foxborough has to do for 39 days. Not just the 7 days that games are happening at Gillette Stadium, but all through the entire World Cup period. They have to secure the stadium like it's Fort Knox with those police, with those security personnel.
One of the richest people in the country, Crafts, own the stadium, and they're saying not it on this as well.
Yeah. And they're saying, this is actually between the host committee and the town of Foxborough. And the host committee is saying, well, we don't actually have any money. And there are grants that were baked into the big, beautiful, whatever that thing is that Trump called it last year, which, by the way, why is the federal government giving grants to do security or anything around the World Cup when FIFA could absolutely pay for it themselves? Why are there grants? Again, this is like, we are blessing you with the right to host the World Cup, and therefore you have to suck up and eat all that expense. Some of this stuff includes things like Johnny Infantino's Johnny Infantino's security, like the what's the word I'm looking for? Not caravan. When he's moving from place to place, the costs of that come down to
The barnstorming tour.
no, I just mean like the security, the elements of like you have to pay for police to escort Johnny Infantino from here to there. All of that comes not down to FIFA. FIFA does not pay for that. That comes down to the host nation, the individual towns and cities that are hosting games. That is ridiculous. I understand Chicago, right? That I understand why they said, nope, we ain't doing this. It's not good for us. And the people on the select board in Foxborough have even said directly during some of these hearings, when they dragged people in from the various bodies responsible, Mike Lloyd, the CEO of Boston's host committee, and Kevin Clark, FIFA's venue operations director for Boston, which of course is Foxborough because there's no stadium in Boston for the games. They say things like, we're actually not going to make any more money from this than we would if we had 7 concerts at Gillette Stadium. Because if they had 7 concerts, Rob, the economic activity happens because there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people going to watch the concert. So that's kind of the same as what FIFA's bringing, right? Like FIFA's saying, oh, but your tourism will go up and all those things. And they're like, well, not enough to offset the fact you want us to pay $7.8 million to secure the stadium for 39 days.
You got a feel for this select committee there. It's essentially like 4 residents there in Foxborough having to be put into the middle of this firestorm because they are essentially volunteers. I think you said there's a $90 stipend, and they're kind of put in the crosshairs, caught in the middle because they can't authorize, almost $8 million, which would just probably, bankrupt or completely, put a spoke in the works of the way that town can operate moving forward. And we've seen in other places, I see people in the chat saying, how many of the Qatar stadiums are being used. We've seen white elephants in lots of different FIFA host nations like South Africa and Brazil. So, there is precedent for FIFA just leaving and leaving the locals with all the problems. Right. And so they're standing their ground, and kudos to them. I mean, one of the board committees here is quoted here that these games are more of a headache. It's going to be a flat no unless we get the money, and we won't do the license until we get that money. So kudos to them for standing their ground. A lot of people would buckle under this pressure. There's probably a lot of people with big wallets leaning on them.
I respect the fact. So I think FIFA should cut this check. FIFA should cut this check. Now, that is a precedent FIFA does not want to set because they don't want to have to go to the next World Cup host and be told, oh, you're going to pay for security like you did in Foxborough. Like, they don't want to open that can of worms because suddenly now they're on the hook for money they don't want to spend. That has always been spent by the hosts of the tournament. So that's bad for them. But I think ultimately it may have to be. It doesn't seem like the Kraft Group is willing to step up unless they find some like a backdoor channel. And it's like, well, the Krafts are going to pay for it. And then FIFA's like, but we'll actually make it up to you. Just don't tell anybody we did it. Like that could be a thing. I think in the end, somebody will pay this bill because they absolutely cannot risk canceling games in Foxborough, Massachusetts, because that schedule is set. Tickets are being sold. People are trying to speculate on tickets. Rob, can you tell us that story quickly before we get to Alex Ashton at the top of the hour?
Oh, my goodness. So in an effort to democratize access to live entertainment, Miami-based ticket broker Ticket Kings offered investors 50% return for over 6 months through a plan to resell FIFA World Cup tickets at a steep markup price. So we got people trying to get investment to buy up all the tickets to quote unquote democratize access to live entertainment.
Well, I mean, obviously that slogan is a bunch of nonsense to say that they want to
malarkey. I'd say malarkey.
But yeah, it's a bunch of malarkey, I guess.
Incredible malarkey.
This company, man, like, and yes, it's about them and criticize them. And there's a detail in the story says the guy that founded the company when he was in high school. He's like, not when he was high school because he was like, oh, this is where we are with the capitalistic tendencies. And again, you start a company and your company's whole profit prospect is we're going to resell tickets. We're scalpers. right? We're
Yes.
marking up ticket prices to make money, and somehow that's democratizing access to sport. I just cannot with some people. But that speaks to now. FIFA is saying this violates the terms of their blah blah blah, all that stuff. They're saying all the right things. Of course, they are using dynamic pricing to drive up prices on tickets for everybody who might want to go to the World Cup. So why shouldn't a third party think that they can get on the in on the act? Why shouldn't they try to raise money from outside investors by saying we're going to scoop up a bunch of tickets, and then we're going to resell those tickets for a massive rate hike, a massive increase, a massive profit, and then you'll get paid back. I mean, this is capitalism run amok on a level that makes me want to vomit, Rob.
Yeah, this story is in Reuters, and they obtained a pitch deck from Ticket King's two investors seeking $5.5 million to scoop up 8,000 World Cup tickets to the highest profile matches at this summer's World Cup. They said they're not sure how much investment they got, but discovering this just shows the Pandora's box opened up with the way that FIFA has conducted the World Cup ticket selling process.
Yeah, I just and also, like, we could throw this detail in as well. I know this is kind of out there, and we've been talking about the parking issue because they're also using dynamic pricing to charge for parking, which means get as much money out of that as possible. They're even doing that for the ADA for the handicap spots.
Hey, come
right?
on.
They're doing those for the ADA spots as well, which is just like morally abhorrent. And it's one of those things. Again, this is sort of the general vibe of soccer now, of sports, but of our game that we love, and we have very, very strong ties to the history of it, what it's supposed to be, the people's game and all that. Everybody operates in these faceless ways that is just about like, and again, like, you run a company. FIFA shouldn't be like this because it's not a publicly traded company, but you run a publicly traded company, you have to act in the best interest of your shareholders. And if you pass up an opportunity to make more money for your shareholders, they can sue you for failing to do the most egregiously immoral thing to squeeze more profit out of the people that you are potentially exploiting for their money. I mean, it is.
Yeah, getting a lot of blood from folks for the line go up philosophy. Anything to make that line go up. We're going to move on to our guest at the top of the hour here, but just a quick update. We have $100 goal for the day. It looks like we are doing well, but not quite at that number yet. So keep those thanks coming in. Want to give a tip of the hat to those who already have, Mr. Bob and Tulsa Mario, and a couple others. Thank you so much for supporting Morning Kickaround, and just keep on doing so. Thank you so much for doing that. That you see on the screen there. Like, subscribe, and become a member. All ways to support this independent soccer program. All right, we got all the bubbly subjects. We got work stoppages covered. We got World Cup stuff covered. We're going to move on in a minute, but I want to remind you that World Cup coverage here on Morning Kickaround is brought to you by Oakland County Football Club, celebrating 10 years on the field in Southeast Michigan in 2026. Tickets are on sale now. Visit Oakland County FC online for tickets, schedule, and much more.